Good afternoon and welcome back to the Celtic Way live stream. You join us about an hour or so after Celtic's first pre-season match, which was a 6-4 defeat against Yokohama in the Nissan Stadium in Yokohama, as we said before. Tony, just right off the bat of that performance and that result, what did you make about the game?
I think it's a team of two halves, isn't it? Going forward, middle to front, were very good, but defensively, you don't want to go in too heavy. People always say that this is all about fitness and getting used to styles and systems, and results aren't important. But results aren't important when you don't get them. You certainly know that. But the concession of 6 goals is a concern, isn't it? Regardless, in any match, it's a concern. You can put up with it because it's pre-season, but I'm worried about that. I have to say that. I think that's it. That's cause for real concern for me. And if we don't know now that Celtic maybe need to bolster that defence, possibly even a goalkeeper as well, depending on where you look at it, then I think Brendan Rodgers might seriously look at that before the start of the season on August the 5th against Ross County. Not pressing panic buttons, because I thought there was much to highlight in terms of decency in the performance, but I don't know. Concession of 6 goals kind of concerns me a bit, Ryan. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, you can look at it on one side. I would say the fact that it's pre-season, it's their third game into the first proper game in a stadium setting with the humidity. It looked absolutely roasting over there, judging by the stream that we were watching. You could see the sweat dripping off both players. It was a very grueling 90 minutes for both teams, you would say. Maybe more so Celtic as they were getting back into the preparation of things. Just want to read out the team that started that game. I know we covered that on the pre-match sort of morning briefing, but in goals was Hart. It was Hatate. No, it was actually Iwata that was playing right back, but so it'd be Iwata, Starfelt, Kobayashi, Taylor, Hatate, McGregor, Abada, O'Reilly, Haksabanovic, Maeda. How did you feel like that first 11 got on? Obviously, Kobayashi came off injured. Was it just before half time, which put a spanner in the works, or was it the second half that he get taken off? It felt like the whole game was mixed into one big conglomerate. But how do you think those starters did individually?
Well, I think if you're going to highlight those that started, the ones that caught the eye were Rio Hatate, Lila Bada, and Dyson Maeda, or as he's now known, Maedona. That was a wonderful first half hat trick. Two of them laid on a plate by Abada, and it's good to see that Abada's actually did a wee bit of talking on the park, and we're remembering him for something that he's actually good at. He can still assist and ably assist. Hatate,
I think you forget that about Abada as well. I think the way he's been speaking, or the way the rumblings have been going on regarding his future, you do forget that Abada is a very, very good football player when he's on top form, and he certainly was today.
And Maeda took his goals like a real striker, didn't he? Third one especially, whipped ball across, and that first time shot was excellent. But the highlight of Maeda's performance was that chip shot that he tried from about 35-40 yards, which the goalkeeper saved. Great piece of improvisation, first time, excellent stuff. But and Hatate was running the show for that first 45 minutes. He's
orchestrating things.
He's got some sublime vision, hasn't he? And a real great range of passing. And he's got real strength, core strength. And the ball through for, let's say, Abada scampering away for the first equalised, made it 1-1. I mean, all Abada has to do is lay the plate for Maeda. So, and he did that, but that pass was just brilliant. And, and whilst all this is going on, you're still concerned about the back of the pack because they looked as if they could score, especially in the second half, with every attack that they made. And I know they're fitter and they're halfway through the season. They're the J1 League champions, and it's a step up in opposition, a step up in class in terms of Celtic's pre-season. But, and it's the searing heat, and I get all that. Players looked like they needed those water breaks when they came along. So I don't want to be too negative, but defensively, I mean, we used the word off here. They looked a bit of a shambles, didn't they? And
Yeah.
and I don't understand why that would be the case if you're working on things. So again, I get back to it. It's concerning. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, it's more of a maybe a psychological thing as well as a physical thing with regards to defending. You don't become bad defenders overnight. So the way they shipped goals was quite. I'm not gonna. I don't know if I should use the word concerning or alarming or that, but it was a concern because if you concede 6 goals in any game, then you have every right to be criticising the team for that performance.
I think Turnbull's goal puts respectability on it. 6-3's a doing,
Mhm.
isn't it? So
Six
Turnbull's
fours
goal
makes it look as if it was
makes
close.
it makes it a lot closer than it probably should have been or was, especially that second half. Although I thought, how we'll never get a penalty for that, well, I'll never know. But there you go. But
I'll
that's
need to
just
see it back, but I don't know
yeah,
why he went down.
yeah,
He must have been pushed.
yeah. I felt it was a penalty at the time, but that was a tap in for 4-4 all, wasn't it? At that
Hmm.
point, I think it was 4-3. So, but
I think so.
I get back to it. I think the problem in Europe last season, and I've made this point before, was the concession of goals, wasn't it? 15 over 6 games in the top table of the Champions League, European football. The Celtic want to make inroads into that. And I think this is, you're going to have to look at this game and say, okay, when managers talk about steep learning curves and learning, I think Celtic really need to learn some salutary lessons from this match alone and cut that out. They've got time to cut all that out under
Yep.
Rodgers before the ball starts for real in terms of their competitive season. Eh, but I still think they'll need reinforcements there to bolster that back line because it doesn't fill you with great confidence, does it, Ryan? Because Yokohama cut through it pretty easily at times. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And the players that are coming on the pitch, I just personally don't think are good enough to be playing for Celtic. I'd put Stephen Welsh into that category.
yeah,
I'd put Liam Scales into that category, despite how he managed to turn it round at Aberdeen following some pretty awful results, which he was a part of in that Aberdeen side. I think
yeah,
it shows you, even when a player like Yuki Kobayashi, who is also getting, I think the question mark is very firmly over his head as well. When he gets injured, the people that are coming in or the players that are coming in to make that position their own, I don't think they're good enough either. So I think you did see. I think today was more like a message to show that we really do. Celtic do really miss Alistair Johnson and Cameron
oh
Carter
yeah,
Vickers when they're away, and I think it shows you how good they are. Those two are as footballers. Because you
There's-
look at
mm,
Starfelt had a bit of a shocker as well today. You would say. I think you can't say a defence has had a good game or a defender's had a good game if they're part of a defence that's conceded 6 goals. That just doesn't work. It's like when people say a goalkeeper's had a good game, but it's 5-0. Like they might have had individual good stops, but it's still 5-0 at the end of the day. But yeah, I think we were missing Carter Vickers and Alistair Johnson very much today. Would you agree?
with without a doubt, without being overcritical of Starfelt, what I will say is Starfelt did Starfelt things, didn't he?
Yeah.
Reverted to type, and the one that earned him a lot of criticism from the supporters. You don't want to go overboard. It is the first game of pre-season. It is all about getting fitness into the legs and getting up to speed, and we get all that. But I just don't think that a Celtic team in pre-season should be conceding 6 goals. Maybe it's just me.
No.
Maybe my bar of standard is set really highly. If you score 4, you should be winning most matches. But the concession of 6 is alarming, concerning. Are those two big words? But
Hmm.
especially when you are saying that you have designs on, the biggest competition in club football, you're get designs on making inroads into that. And I know it starts now. It started, pre-season has started, and guys have to switch on, and think a lot of the players switched off today at critical remote. I mean, you and Eden did the kind of early reaction piece, and in that piece was, let's look at the goals that were conceded. Joe Hart goal, first mistake. Greg Taylor, second goal, wasn't it? A mistake. Carol Starfelt,
for the
third goal, mistake. Barnaby Slack with a fourth goal. 4 out of those 6 goals, they're preventable, yeah. But
yeah, 4 and 5 were well worked goals from Yokohama's perspective, but number 6 was a mistake from Barnaby.
So 4 out of those 6 goals are preventable because they've come from mistakes that Celtic have made, shot themselves in the foot, but they're still punished, Ryan. You know, when the players are making mistakes, and that's at pre-season level. You know, against a team who have won the, as you said, won the J1 League and they're the champions and they're halfway through their season. But they're going to get punished at any level of football if you continue to do that. And I think it's the continuation of this, isn't it, with Celtic? Seeing them losing clusters of goals like that to foreign opposition. Because that's kind of Celtic's Achilles heel, as you say. You know, remember when they played Real Betis, and they lost 4-3, but they lost a cluster of goals, didn't they? Before and just after the break, didn't they? And
they seem to do it in periods, don't they? They seem
to
just fall apart. And I'm not comparing the two teams because there's obviously quite a few. There's a couple of years between those two instances. Obviously, the Betis game and the game today or tonight in Japan time, because obviously the time difference. But it does seem as if it's a trait that is getting shared on. When Celtic concede 1 goal, they maybe concede 2 or 3 before they get out of that rut, and that seemed to happen today.
And there's still plenty of time to fix this. I'm not going overboard, but I was talking about in the preview show about the idiosyncrasies and behaviours. I saw it from middle to front, certainly in the first half. Then there was a plethora of changes made and stuff like that. But the defence didn't show me that. You know, that in fits and starts, Celtic played with that intensity that Brendan Rodgers spoke about prior to the Yokohama F Marinos match in his short interview he gave. He said he wanted to play with intensity. So I'm not panicking or anything, but I just think you look at that and you think, does that defence need bolstered? I think it does. You badly miss Alistair Johnston and Cameron Carter-Vickers, and you take them out of the team and the defence looks pretty ordinary, doesn't it? And even when you're looking
makeshift as well.
Yeah, you're looking at your goalkeeper to bail you out. Okay, Hart makes a rickets of the first one, but I didn't see much to encourage me by way of Seagreaves' performance, where I thought everything that went towards his goal went in. We spoke off air about the header that the boy scored when he got the jump on McPherson. And, you know, if Seagreaves is looking at that, he knows where the boy's going to try and header it, surely. Now, I'm not saying
he might make a jump for it.
I'm not saying he can get there, but surely make some attempt. The guy's going for a header and putting it in at your right-hand post as you're diving, or you should dive, but he made no attempt. And then the other couple of goals, you said some of them were well worked, but there was I didn't get that feeling of confidence with Seagreaves' goal that I thought, this is a guy that should come in and be determined to say, I want those gloves from Joe Hart. Joe Hart, inexplicable mistake, the one that popped out his arms. I don't know what happened there.
It's just, do you want me to talk about Joe Hart? Do you want me to be frank about Joe Hart?
Be as frank as you want.
I've just got to be honest. I don't know how much of a hot take it is, but he can't be our first choice goalkeeper next season. I think Celtic have got to be improving. They've got to be looking in that area specifically for a player that is going to make saves. That mistake cannot happen in the league. It cannot happen in Europe because that's going to cost us. That's going to cost Celtic in games that are on a knife edge.
None of those mistakes can happen once the ball starts rolling for real, Ryan. And I'm glad it's pre-season, because if you learn about your team the most, then that's when you learn. Today's one of those games where Celtic are going to have to learn under Rodgers. And yep, I don't, as I say, I'm not getting in with studs up. You're just disappointed that certain aspects of the play were really good, but in other aspects they were very poor in that big aspect being the defence, goalkeeper and back four, and those that came on to replace the guys in the back four. Nobody in that defence had covered himself in any glory today, staked any kind of claim for anything. And as we've highlighted and spoken about, it just shows you how much they rely on the likes of Cameron Carter-Vickers and Alistair Taylor, even Alistair Johnston, even Greg Taylor was mediocre by his high standards, wasn't he? And then you're looking for Burnaby to come on and, make some kind of impact. Slack pass, 6 goal conceded, which made it 6-3, which at that
there's
point
a sentence fee.
Is a doing.
A slack pass and a 6 goal. That's
and at least a 6 goal.
It's a 6 goal. That shouldn't. Those are words that shouldn't be coming out of supporters or people's mouths.
If you're talking about intensity, they were certainly playing. Yokohama were playing with a certain intensity, weren't they? Because even in the latter stages, they were still looking to score more goals. So they didn't get 4-3 ahead and think, well, that's that. No, they wanted a 5th, they wanted a 6th, and Celtic duly obliged with some real slackness. David Turnbull scores a goal at the death that adds some respectability to it. And as I say, I was interested to see how Said Haksabanovic, nowhere again.
Yeah, I was going to get on to him.
Nowhere again. Matt O'Reilly drifted in and out, didn't he? Cal Mack as well had a decent first half, but faded right out of the picture, didn't he?
It seemed as if the flashpoints were in defence because of how bad they were. Apart from, I'll give pass marks to Iwata because I don't think he played too badly. He was obviously out of position as well, but he provided an assist for the 3rd goal to Daisen Maeda, and I thought he had some nice touches on the ball. But I feel like the flashpoints were at defence in terms of how bad it was and disjointed, and attack because of how positive it was, apart from maybe Haksabanovic. But when you take Maeda and Abada's performances in isolation, you think those were 2 really good performances. They showed what they've got. I feel like maybe Hatate had a good game. Hatate was one of the standouts in the game, but I would say O'Reilly and McGregor, I don't think they were up to their usual high standards. Maybe that's just down to the fact they're getting used to the new system, or for Callum McGregor, he's getting used to an old system, but new again to him because he's not played that in 3 or 4 years. But I think for O'Reilly, he's going to have to take time to get used to playing that attacking midfield role and sort of work. I'm not putting the alarm bells out for him. I just think he was really quiet today and expected him to grab the game by the scruff of the neck a wee bit more.
Yeah, and again, I'm not panicking because I think this is all part of Brendan Rodgers' strategy to assess, scrutinise, and then finally make decisions on who he's going to bring in. I would have maybe wanted new recruits sooner, but I think it's just highlighted the fact that we do need new blood, Ryan, in that team, especially defence. From middle to front, I think we're okay. There were some decent things that I watched there. Again, I'm like, excuse me, like you, I was disappointed with Sead Haksabanovic's contribution, like Leila Abada's contribution, like Maeda's contribution. Kyogo came on and got a wee kind of cameo, did okay, but I guess we were talking about this morning, you'll still be the starting striker for Celtic, and all day, every day, and twice on a Sunday. So Maeda can certainly do what he wants in terms of that, but I don't think he's dislodging his fellow countrymen from, let's say, the traditional number 9 role.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I think just ahead of the Gamble Saka game on Saturday, I would keep with Maeda up front. I don't think you can exactly drop a guy that scored a hat trick in his first in his first televised pre-season game for Celtic. I would keep him going, keep the good form going, because that will hopefully then work into the start of the season. I've seen something today from Maeda that showed me that I can see why Brendan Rodgers offered him the new deal and why Celtic offered him the new deal. He does have a lot of deficiencies in his game. Those have been well highlighted by numerous quarters, I would say. Sometimes his first touch can be a bit erratic. Sometimes his passing and crossing can leave a lot to be desired. But just his running, I mean, look at the humidity and the conditions of that game. And he was running about, making himself a nuisance. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to come from Daizen Maeda, and if he can improve on some of the deficiencies in his game while also improving on the things that make him good, then I think he'll be a very valuable member of Brendan Rodgers' squad. And 3 goals to start off that sort of televised run for the pre-season games is a good start for him. What would you say?
I think he wanted to put on a good show, didn't he, to his former employers, and he marked it as well as he could. And yeah, I agree with you. I think he showed some wonderful attributes today, Maeda, and I can understand why Brendan Rodgers would want a player like that in his team. And he scored. He took his goals well because he had to get into position for the first 2, make those runs, and then the third one was a kind of natural, instinctive finish, which I quite liked about him. It was a real striker's finish. It was excellent. And
would you say that Daizen Maeda was he was channeling his inner Connor Salmon? I know they've probably got about the same amount of hair on their head, but that 40-yard chip that he tried was certainly a lot closer than Connor Salmon's against Celtic when he was playing for Alloa. But no, I'm delighted with Daizen.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he had an excellent game, and it was and thankfully he did, because it was one of the high points of the game. And again, you don't want to be overly critical, but you can only assess what you've watched. And watching Celtic ship 6 goals it's never a good spectator sport, is it? Let's be honest. And comforted by the fact that it is pre-season and it doesn't mean a lot in the grand schema of things. Well, it doesn't mean a lot as long as it's nipped in the bud and it's not allowed to continue. And defensively, Celtic are sorted out. But you want to see a vast improvement for the Gamba-Osaka game. I mean, a vast improvement, and by vast improvement, I'm wanting a clean sheet in that line. That's the first thing I would say to the team that he sends out. We do not lose goals in this game, because
one thing.
When you go,
yeah, I think one thing about Gamba-Osaka is they're not as good a team as Yokohama F Marinos. I'm not sure exactly where Yokohama are in their league at this point in time, but I do know that they were the J1 League champions last season, and a couple of really good players in and around their team. They're obviously managed by a good manager in Kevin Muscat that's doing a good job with them, with the resources that he's got at his disposal. He's doing a good job since replacing Postecoglou as the Yokohama manager. But the good thing is Osaka aren't as good as Yokohama, and by that time you would assume that Celtic have acclimatised to the conditions a wee bit better and will put on a better performance. Just before I get on to Brendan Rodgers' comments that are coming through, if you do enjoy what we do and you want to read more, you can read Aidan and I's instant analysis on the website just now. If you go to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, I think a big verdict's coming from you as well, Tony, in the next day or so as well.
I'm trying to be as fair as I can, with throwing things out and adding things in as I'm going along.
Because call a spade a spade at the end of the day.
I'm trying to be as honest as I can in my assessment of that, and it wasn't great. There was some really good things interspersed with some really terrible, shambolic stuff in terms of the defence. And I get that it's the first real pre-season match, and it doesn't matter a jot, and I'm glad about that, because I would be concerned if Celtic were in the Champions League qualifiers. Let's put it that way. And thankfully they don't have to negotiate that. I trust the manager to get it right and to bring in the right type of player, and having assessed and scrutinised what Celtic need. I think he probably thinks now that they need more than he maybe thought. That strength and depth that we always seem to be talking about maybe isn't there, particularly in the defensive positions. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that's something that that needs to be sorted out quickly. That for any team to be successful in Europe, you have to bolt the back door, and it's not something that you associate with Celtic teams of late. So that's a big ask now for Celtic in terms of making statements in Europe and doing things. But again, will that be the team that plays against Ross County on August the 5th? No, it won't. will that be the team that goes in against whoever Celtic draw in the Champions League in the first Champions League group game in September? No, it won't. So I'm comforted by that. I'm comforted with the fact that there's other members of personnel to come in to enhance that team. But going on that, and Brendan Rodgers giving guys their chance, not a lot of people covered themselves in glory there, did they? Apart
No, I
from
would
the
agree.
ones that we've named, Hatate, Abada, Maeda, struggling
Yeah,
really
that's
after that, aren't you? To be
Awaka
fair,
pass marks, but even then,
yeah,
he's part of a defence
no,
that 6, or he was on the pitch for about 4 of those 6 or 3 of those 6. But just before I get on to the comments from the manager, just to sort of recap what happened in the game. So in the 4th minute, Lopez scored for Yokohama F Marinos to make it 1-0. Maeda scored 2 minutes later before he scored again in the 21st minute to make it 2-1 Celtic, before it was 2 each 2 minutes later after that, from Mizunuma that plays for Yokohama. Then in the 42nd minute, it was 3-2 to Celtic because Maeda scored his hat-trick, and it was 3-2 to Celtic at the break. You need to remember that Celtic were winning this game at half-time. Celtic then conceded 4 goals on the trot in the 59th, 66th, 85th and 88th minute from Lopez, Sineto and 2 from Niachi respectively, before David Turnbull scored the 92nd minute strike to sort of make it more respectable on the scoreline. Just if we go into Brendan Rodgers' comments, because I'm sure you'll be dying to hear what Brendan Rodgers has got to say with regards to this game. So he was saying on the defeat to Yokohama F Marinos, it's a period of the season where we're only a few weeks in and assessing where we're at. We could have been better for the first goal before it got to Joe Hart. These players, their attitude and energy and everything that they do on and off the pitch is great. The humility that they have and how they work and present themselves is first class. They're also very talented footballers. I'm guessing he's talking about Yokohama's players at this point.
yep.
I think it was a really good exercise for us. It was always going to be a challenge, firstly from a physical perspective. We arrived here in Japan on Monday and we're into a game in hot conditions against a team that are more than halfway into their season. There were some really good bits in the game. Some of our goals were excellent. I thought Maeda was exceptional in his performance. It was everything you'd want in a striker: running, movement and pressing. Just sounds like from his comments that he's been quite balanced. He is talking about how the team could have done better with regards to the defending, but he is taking the positives, and he is not. I don't think he's making an excuse, but I think he's bringing in some outside factors that may have contributed to the drop-off in the last half hour.
I don't think he's going to throw his players under the bus, Ryan, is he? Let's be honest.
He never does that.
Yeah. So I think fans are entitled to be critical, aren't they? As much as they can. He got some valid points there. I take the point about arriving into Japan on Monday, and then they're playing a game on the Wednesday, and they're up against a team who are midway through their season. Get all that. I'm just talking about the kind of basic football behaviours, Ryan, that a defence should pride themselves on not conceding goals. And, I didn't see that today from some of that Celtic, from a Celtic perspective. And I know the manager would never throw his players under the bus like that. I agree totally with his comments on Maeda. I thought he was excellent, and he's been looking forward to working with Maeda. He said it when he signed the deal. And, so that's, again, you're hoping that effect that he's had on Maeda, instant effect by the looks of it, rubs off on others, and they produce the kind of same level and type of performance that Maeda's just produced there. And if he does play Maeda through the middle, then he'll certainly bag more than 11 goals that she got from 48 appearances last season in all competitions. So looking forward to see how that pans out. I mean, the manager is, as you say, trying to be as upbeat and as positive as he can about it. But it's hard to be upbeat and positive when you've conceded 6 goals. I know you've scored 4, and you're doing the whole yin and yang balancing act there. And I don't want to go in too heavy because it's only a pre-season game. And at the end of the day, it does count for nothing, and results aren't important. But I just think that some things are important, like performances and behaviours, and seeing things that give you an optimistic and positive outlook for the future. And with the exception of Maeda, Hatate and Maeda, I didn't see that from many of the others.
Yeah. Just to talk about the players that came on, that came off the bench, guys like Bernabe, Scales, McPherson, Turnbull, Kelly, Forrest, Summers, Kyogo and O. Was there any of those players that stood out to you or made an impression in the final 15 minutes in which they were playing?
I thought Ben Summers looked okay. He did all right. Don't think Daniel Kelly disgraced himself. Every time he picked up the ball, he passed it to a Celtic player. It's very hard for young guys to come on and make a real impression there, but I don't think those two in particular let themselves down. And I think they were the pick of the young guys that came on. Now, Kay Matsu's coming in with a comment here, and we mentioned that the fourth and fifth goal were well executed. We've said that, but the rest all came from Celtic mistakes.
Yeah.
Tony Haggerty, watch all the second half goals, all seen well constructed plays, build off to perfection, the expected timing of the runs.
Yeah, we wrote about that as well. The fact that they were well up Yokohama F Marinos goals. So credit to them for the way that they were playing. But even with those well constructed goals, you'd think that a team of Celtic's quality could shut out these passages of play before they turn into big chances. I mean, I know they're halfway. Yokohama F Marinos are halfway through their season, but at the same time, aside with the quality that Celtic possess, should be able to stop these runs and stop these developments happening before they transpire into goals or chances in front of goal.
Yeah, I mean, we tipped our hat to the fourth and the fifth goal, which were well worked, as you say, but we were speaking about the four other goals, which were all could be attributed to individual errors. Looking on it, people might think it was a 10-goal thriller. That's possible if that's the case. But I as I say, I'm not getting too worked up. We're always asked to come on here and give our assessment, and we try and be as balanced as possible. And being balanced, and you have to. Welsh scored 4 goals, and some of the attacking play was exciting and good to watch. The concession of 6 is, I don't think many Celtic supporters will be over the moon about that, Ryan, and jumping about in a good way. There'll be underlying concerns there, won't there?
I think there will be, yeah. There seems to be a lot of panic on social media that X, Y, and Z we've got poor defenders, we've got midfielders that aren't playing well, we've got people that are on the pitch that just aren't contributing that much. This is the first televised game. Probably the passing and the style of play in the first game against Portimonense was probably worse. So I'm glad that game wasn't televised as well, or there would be complete hysteria, you would say, on social media. But I think this happens every season. I think the pre-season, Celtic are never a pre-season team. That they never bring out their best. I remember in 2009 time when they won the Wembley Cup under Tony Mowbray. That turned out to be the only trophy they won that season. So I'd much rather they iron out all the negatives in pre-season than produce loads of good performances and then totally collapse.
In the centenary season, they get gubbed 5-1 by Arsenal prior to the season starting. So I always remember that, and I always remember being told or thinking pre-season friendlies mean nothing. It doesn't really matter, does it? So I think Hazel's got a good point here as well. Hazel Finn. Afternoon, Hazel. I'm sure what Brendan Rodgers said after the match and what he's really thinking will be totally different. I think you've got a valid point there as well, Hazel.
What he says to the media and what he says to the players will be two completely different things. I think he'll be telling them in no uncertain terms that conceding 6 goals isn't good enough, regardless if it's a competitive match or a friendly. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, exactly that. I just think that he will be drumming it into them that conceding 6 is just a no-no, regardless of the opposition standard of the opposition or what. Joe Bookless comes in and says pre-season means a lot. I think it means a lot in terms of your preparation. You don't want to be conceding 6 goals in any pre-season match because I think that it hinders preparation. You can take steps forward and think, right, we've got that, and then bang, something like that happens. I remember, was it Ange Postecoglou's first season? It was a 6-2 gubbing by West Ham, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And people were all over the place, and that was when pictures of Barkas not covering his near post, stuff like that emerged, so you're shaking your head there. Excuse me, you remember how bad the overreaction and hysteria was at that, and it all turned out well. So Brendan Rodgers had plenty of time to fix this, plenty of time to bring in players both for domestic purposes and for the Champions League. So I'm not panicking, but I just think that, shipping 6 goals, it just doesn't make for good reading, does it?
Yeah, I know. Do you think that obviously the rumours, or not the rumours, the reports have been very heavily linked on Kwon and Yang. Judging by the squad depth, or you could probably say lack of squad depth after today, you would think that their acquisitions, or the acquisitions of those two players into the Celtic team, they're going to make they could very easily make an immediate impact if and when they are ready to step on the field for Celtic when they're announced. Especially, I don't know about you, but Kwon, I think if Kwon has anything about him in that defensive midfielder capacity, then I think Celtic need somebody there. I don't, as much as I think Cal McGregor can be great in that position, but at times you need somebody that's blood and thunder in that position, that puts out fires before the defence needs to deal with them.
I think any new player will now fancy their chances of getting into Brendan Rodgers' starting 11 after that showing. You'd be like, right, give me a shot. You'd fancy your Barrett, as they say, to go in and make a difference. And if Kwon has got smarts about him and he plays the game the way he talks about the game, then yeah, he could go in there and make his presence felt, because he's got that physicality as well. And I also say Odin Thiago Holm and Marco Tilio as well. They can come in and make a contribution as well. So I'm not forgetting about them. As I say, I'm not panicked in any shape or form. I'm not overly concerned. I think there is a concern there. People saying it's a meaningless game. I get that, but every game has meaning. You have to then sit down and say, okay, write it off, move on. But you've got to learn lessons from it. You've got to say, right, what went wrong there? What happened there? Analyse it, and then and point out where things could have been better. Things could have been tightened up, and I think that's what the manager was kind of alluding to there. And he's also given you extenuating factors like arriving on Monday and players playing in the searing heat. We get all that stuff, So I think, but as much as they're mitigating factors, you've sent a team out there to execute a game plan, and they haven't. Basically, they haven't. Some players have, others haven't, and that's led
disjointed.
It's led to a 6-4 pre-season defeat. And disjointed is one of the words I've used in my colour piece, and deliberation as well. Then followed by another D word, defenders. So I think as much as everything else with Celtic concentrating on wingers, forwards, and midfielders, I think the next few weeks in the window might be taken up by looking at who can come in and give Celtic a hand in the back line.
I think it's a very interesting sort of position, because I was talking about how Celtic do need another right back as well, even with two of the right backs. If they were fully fit, then I think we would need another guy in there to challenge Alistair Johnston in the future. Was making the example of potentially a younger player in the mould of Frimpong that could come in and develop over a number of years before maybe eventually taking that place when he gets. Well, give him maybe 10, 15, 20 games a season to sort of develop and then bring him through. But it seems as if, judging by Brendan Rodgers' comments, he is a big Anthony Ralston fan as well, so he'll definitely get his game time. He might even be the number 2 behind Alistair Johnston. Obviously, he was unfit today, and that might have contributed to part of it as well, not having a recognised right back and on the pitch too. But I think just in general as a defence, I think today showed that the depth just isn't there for one way or another. There's players there that obviously cannot step up and do as good a job as Carter Vickers and Starfelt, that combined partnership. So it just shows that more business will need to get done.
I think the silver lining on that, Ryan, is that he now knows that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can put a silver lining on the concession of 6 goals, but you now know that there are certain players there who won't be able to make that step up or just aren't going to be part of the plans moving forward, and you now need to cast your eye on bringing in guys who will. And I'm not saying Celtic weren't doing that anyway, and there's stuff bubbling away on the surface. So, but defence is a huge part of your team. You know, you need to get that spot on in order to achieve any kind of success. So, if anything, it tells me that, right, okay, there will be players jettisoned from that team and that squad, and they will feature no more for Celtic. And you're better learning that right now. And I think maybe that's the way Brendan Rodgers is talking, comments, and he's talked about having those difficult conversations. So maybe those difficult conversations have involved a couple of the players that he's turned to today. And likewise, if they've been told that they have no future at Celtic, then you can't really expect them to, put in or give their all if they know that their future lies away from the club. So yeah, I'm trying to paint a positive spin and picture on it in terms of if one good thing comes from this, Ryan, it will be that Celtic probably will go into the transfer market and sign a defender, open brackets, add an S, close brackets, defenders.
Capital S on that as well.
So defenders, and I think, and again, I've written this in my opinion piece, if you canvass the Celtic supporters about the positions that they need to strengthen the most, I think they would probably come from, excuse me, your goalkeeper and areas in your back four, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and John Kerr just makes a really interesting point there, just off the back of that. Remember, Yokohama also lost 4 goals without travel and having full fitness. That's the sort of positivity that I do like. That's
we have flagged that up.
And they were well worked 4 goals as well. So there's no problem on that end. I thought in the first half, especially some of the passing play was delightful to watch, especially working off of a press. Yokohama were putting the press on. You can see that Kevin Muscat likes to play a similar sort of way to the way that Ange Postecoglou played. That's probably why he got the Yokohama job, for that continuity to come into effect. But they were really pushing or pressing Celtic really high up the pitch, and Celtic were doing well to sort of unlock that. They've been used to doing that before, but there was some really nice positive play. Hatate on that half turn was just a joy to watch, but it feels like ages ago with all the goals that we conceded in the second.
There was a brilliant piece of play out of defence where Maeda flicked it to somebody. You remember that one in the first half?
Yeah, I do remember that.
You know, and I think Hatate was just inches away from releasing. Was it Abada again? He just got the pass wrong, didn't he? But
yes.
That would have been, that would have been quite something had he executed that pass. But but those were kind of things that I liked as well. So it wasn't all doom and gloom. I thought for certain parts from middle to front they looked good, but I wanted to see more from O'Reilly. I wanted to see more from McGregor. Hatate was the midfielder that showed us exactly what he's capable of. Abada out wide and Maeda, they were the 3 that we've constantly highlighted throughout this building that gave Celtic anything to cheer about, and the rest were, you said Iwata, possibly past marks, and a defence at ship 6. The rest were very below average, let's put it that way. So, but again, I think we're coming on here, we're trying to give an honest and balanced opinion of things, and so you have to highlight and accentuate the positives as well. But it's not an overly concerned about what's happening in the Celtic defence, but I think there's a concern there. You have to sort of say, right, this doesn't happen again. You have to if this is to be nipped in the bud by either bringing in new defenders or getting the guys together and say, right, it's unacceptable against any opposition, let alone in a pre-season friendly. But it's just not going to happen again. So that's what I want to see. And that's what I want to see that they've learned from moving forward. I know Gambo Saka, I think, are second in the J1 league at this minute in time. Somebody can correct me.
I think they're 13th or something. I think they're near the bottom.
All right, sorry. I thought I read that.
Yokohama. I think Yokohama. I will double check that, but just continue on with what you were saying there. I'll double check their position.
But I want a vast improvement when they play Gambo Saka. And I mentioned earlier I would like a mid-table, says Kumatsu, I think. I want a
they're 13th and Yokohama second.
Sorry, right, okay, I got that the wrong way around then. So I want a clean sheet against a team like that. So then that's another platform upon which you can build. You can build upon the fact that Maeda get a wonderful hat-trick and you scored 4 goals, but I don't think that's telling me anything new, because from middle to front I've always kind of thought Celtic were quite all right and decent, more than decent, and can create chances and can score goals. But it's the back of the pack that we've always had the concerns about, isn't it? And again, Brian Murphy coming in, mental analysing a friendly, the crazy world of football. That's what we do, Brian. We analyse every Celtic game, pre-season friendlies, competitive matches. So that's why we're on here, and that's what we do. So we're not, as I say, steaming in. We're not being hysterical. We're not overreacting. We're just pointing out things that we can see in as balanced a manner as possible, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's has been going on for 47 minutes. That's like a third half of football. That we've been. If you add that along with the morning briefing, we've been on ages today.
Put myself through more torture to dissect it all over again.
Never
Brian.
Torture with you, Tony. Never torture with you at all. Just before we finish up, if you do enjoy what we do and you enjoy the briefings and the post-match reaction, give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's free and you'll get notifications for whenever we go live or whenever we upload new videos. We're going to try and focus on uploading more pre-recorded videos for you all to enjoy. So keep an eye out for them, and they'll be on their way to you very soon. And if you want to support us even further, you can subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. If you visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, we've got plenty of stories in the pipeline, plenty of features, interviews, scouting reports. It's that busy time of the season when you need your daily Celtic fix, and the Celtic Way goes all out to give you that. But thank you very much, Tony, for joining me once again. We've had 2 live streams today. It's not been too bad, has it?
Been busy, but hey, that is what it is. That's what we like.
We
like to talk about, yeah, of course. And we always talk about Celtic. What's the song say? We don't care if we win, lose or draw. I think we do care if we lose, don't we? We certainly do.
Yeah, I care if we draw as well. I always think that song's very outdated, if you ask me, because I've got this winning mentality installed in me. We don't care if we, I don't know how they would change it, but I'll get someone else to write the lyrics for that. But,
we do care if we win, lose or draw. I think we just change
there you go. Exactly.
Do from don't, right? So to do from don't, because we clearly do care. And,
we really do care. Yeah.
Some more than others.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much again for joining us, guys, and thank you, Tony, for joining me on this reaction video. I'm sure we'll be doing more at the weekend. We'll get the Gamble Saka game, same time at 11 a.m. in our time over here. I think it's 7 o'clock over there once again. So we'll look forward to bringing you that in the coming days. We'll also be live tomorrow with the morning briefing. I'm not sure who exactly will be on. I think it might be me, Aidan and I, but we will be there at our usual time. Thank you very much, Tony, for joining me.
Pleasure as always. Take care.
And thank you everybody in the comments for joining us. Really appreciate it. We will catch you tomorrow. Cheers.